How long does it take to kill a good relationship? Well, that's an interesting question. One of my partners was asking me that, and I started thinking about it because it depends on the connection before. If the couple was really close, then hopefully when they started seeing things go downhill, they would be aware of that and they would start talking about it. But for some reason, some relationships begin a process of unraveling and they stop going back to each other. Maybe it was a fallout with a health condition or a fallout with something that happened in the family or a fallout with something that happened to a person personally, their health, or maybe their hormones got out of whack. They stopped trusting their partner. They stopped confiding in them. They stopped trusting them. And then what happens is when that process begins unraveling the relationship, then it will die easily depending on the mix of relationships. There's 3 things that partners do that I've seen kill a marriage within 3 to 6 months. Now that's fast because most divorces end after 5 to 7 years of doing things that are destructive but not really lethal. These 3 behaviors are lethal. And they're the killers, the true killers, what's behind it is contempt, negativity, and neglect. But I want to talk a little bit about what each of those look like. So the contempt is when you get pulled into criticism, and contempt, like you just basically one of you is constantly criticizing the other, and the other begins doing the same thing with contempt, with vengeance, with disgust, with hate. And you don't, after the fight, sometimes these partners will even go, what am I doing? Like, we're at war now. They can't believe it's coming out of them. They can't believe they're engaging in this, but yet they are. And what always amazes me, at that point, you would think 2 people who loved each other would stop and say, listen, we need help, but they don't. Or if they do say that, they don't do the follow through. Contempt alone will not usually kill a relationship, but it will make it a very miserable place to be. And if you have contempt, you can still turn it around, but contempt and criticism usually leads to these other 2 behaviors. And the next one is negativity. When you begin feeling hopelessly lost in negativity, you can't see good things about your partner. You can't see good things about the relationship. Maybe some friends tell you, go back in your history. How did the 2 of you meet? Let's look at old pictures together. It all seems like a blur. It seems like it's not even part of your life because your present, your now is negativity and hopelessness. And when that starts, then those 2 together, contempt and negativity, very rarely follow in just those 2. They include or they bring in the 3rd part of what kills a relationship, and that's neglect. Because you feel critical of them, because you feel contempt, you don't like them, because you're hopelessly negative, what you often do is you abandon them. You neglect them. You don't want to be around them. You avoid them. And those 3 together are what brings a relationship down. How do you fix this? It isn't easy. I mean, one of the partners has to stick up for the relationship and say, listen, we have a problem, and use we. And then as soon as you say that, go back to me. What are my behaviors I am doing that are contributing to this? Don't point the finger and don't say you. The minute you start doing that, your partner gets negative and you're going to get dragged in further deeper into this threesome hole. And you don't want that. These 3 behaviors are toxic. If you talk to a therapist at that point, after you've discussed it, you talk to a therapist. If you can identify the 3 you're practicing and what it looks like, the contempt, the criticism, the avoiding them, the neglect, and also the negativity, then the therapist has an opportunity to try and help throw you guys a rope and help pull you out. But if you don't have the emotional maturity or the emotional strength to go into what you're doing to contribute to this, then many times the relationship will die. Because once you start blaming each other, you can see you're getting darker and darker, dragged into that toxic hole, and nothing good will come from it. So see your therapist, talk to your partner, own your part of this, and then I think with a lot of work, you guys can bring it back together.